Well, hello everyone. Most of you know me already. I'm David Malekar. I have to address an issue that is online, that is slanderous, promoting false information. To give backstory through the video, briefly, I was incarcerated for 113 days in the Washington County Detention Center over an accident I had with my soon-to-be stepson. It was October 3rd, 2012, that I was here, and actually in this room with Lenore here, who's the mother of him, and we were trying to calm him down that day. He was being pretty fussy. He was 13 months at the time, active boy. He was just learning how to walk. He was like to get into things. He could walk assisted while holding on to objects, and unfortunately he was pretty clumsy. He did fall a lot and bumped his head, and we were trying to help him learn how to walk properly. He ended up learning how to walk all on his own later, a few months later, of course, while I was incarcerated, so I missed that moment. Not happy about that. Not to mention I missed all the holidays because it was October 10th I was arrested. So from October 10th I missed Halloween, I missed Thanksgiving, I missed Christmas, I missed New Year's, I missed my mom's birthday in January. I missed a lot of holidays that I should have spent with my family. All this for no reason. But anyways, going back to the day, October 3rd, I had him, and it was actually over here. The room's been rearranged, so it's not the same layout anymore, but I had him, and I was trying to cheer him up, and basically, short story, I was spinning around with him, and I lost my footing, and when I fell, because of that, I was trying not to fall on him, so I reached out my arms to try to protect him, but unfortunately, as I was falling, it was in mid-motion, going so quickly, I ended up hitting. I had a huge computer tower over there. It was a full-sized steel tower. It weighed about 50 plus pounds. He bumped his head off of that. Now at the time, I was dizzy. He was dizzy. We were both stunned, but he wasn't really reacting in any harmful way or crying, or was he going nuts or anything? No, it was like he was fine. She put him back for a nap. And about an hour later, she came back to the crib and brought him out, was going to feed him, and she noticed there was a knot on the back of his head, like right here. And we both were concerned about it. We wanted to make sure everything was okay. She called her dad and asked her dad about it, and so we went over there to his house, and we all agreed once we got over there, it's like, okay, well, let's go to the hospital just to make sure he's okay. We go out there to Emeritus Hospital, and they didn't see us for like 4 or 5 hours, so we're sitting in the waiting room for that long. They finally take him back. They at first they said they thought it was a bug bite, and then later they did a scan and said, well, he's got a fracture back here. So they took him down to DC. I don't know who it was, but somebody made a phone call there to CPS, said it was child abuse, which was absolutely ridiculous, because nothing of that nature has ever occurred. I would never hurt a child. I can attest to that. My friends, my family, hundreds of people can attest that I would never ever hurt a child, and it's just the last thing that's on my mind. I come from a broken family where my dad left my mom at a young age, and since I've been young, I always vowed that I would never be the father that he was. So it's always been a goal of mine to be a good dad, and I've always been good with kids, and I've helped out numerous times on mission trips with my church. Went to like Philadelphia, inner city Philadelphia. I was helping out kids for a week. North Carolina, Charleston, I was down there doing mission work with kids for a whole week. Around here, I babysit friends' kids. It's just ridiculous for anyone to think such a thing. She can personally attest to that. I've babysit him while she was at work, taking care of him. I took care of all his needs for the longest time. When I first met him, he was only 9 months. And
7.
7 months? It was 7 months. Okay, so I was taking care of him for a while, covering like all of his costs, clothes, anything that he needed, playpen, bought him a new playpen and everything else. But anyways, I didn't get to talk to anybody for a couple of days. They started hounding her right away while she was down at the hospital in D.C. Now, while she was in the hospital at D.C., the people down there, they said, okay, well, it's going to heal on its own. It'll be fine. He doesn't need any medical attention. And he didn't receive any medical attention. None was needed. So it was just a simple injury that was able to heal on its own. And actually, within a couple of days, you couldn't even tell anything had ever happened, period. So, but while she was down there, she was being harassed by police. They actually taken her cell phone. They were trying to accumulate evidence to try to point something against us. And my concern for her the whole time was I was scared they were actually going to do something to her. I didn't know that they were going to end up doing something to me. But did you not try to tell them while you were down there what had happened and they just wouldn't listen to you? And basically after fighting with her for a few hours, they finally left. Later, at first it was with the city police, and then it switched over to the county police when they found out it was outside the city jurisdiction, and that's when things really started going bad. They came to the house a few days later. I told them what happened, and the charging officer and another sheriff were here. They took pictures. They got what I said, and they left. Like there was nothing that could be done because I told them exactly what happened. So I was never arrested at that point. And they wanted me to come down for a statement at the office, and I told them, well, I don't feel like that because I know what they do to people when you go down there. It's all about intimidation tactics and getting them to get you to say what they want you to say. And that's exactly what happened to her later, because CPS was telling her that she was going to have her child taken away if she didn't go in and make a statement. So she simply went in to the department to make a statement. Actually, it was, since this isn't court material, I can actually say it was actually to take a lie detector test. They wanted her to take a lie detector test, and she was simply supposed to go in and answer questions. Well, she ended up going in there, and she was interrogated by an officer for almost 2 hours, bantering her, slandering her, calling her a liar. Numerous times, didn't you try to tell him exactly what happened? He wouldn't listen to you. And she has a letter that she wrote that she was going to read in court. I'm going to let her read that in a little bit. That explains the actions of the officers that handled the case and how she was treated. So I was locked up for 113 days. Most of the time was spent in isolation, where I was locked up for 23 hours a day, where the only thing you can do in that hour you're out is get a shower and make a phone call, if you even have money on your phone. So, it was a very hard, terrible time. I spent my time reading the Bible. I was actually able to complete the Bible in the time that I was in there, and I made the decision that when I got out, I wanted to take steps towards getting accreditation towards ministry, because I wanted to become a minister. It's something that's actually been in the back of my mind for many years, but it was there that it finally really dawned on me after studying so much. It's like, okay, this is something I do want to do. Whether it's going to be a full profession or not, I don't know yet, because it's tough to make a living off of being a minister if you're not in the right spot. And it's not about the money anyway, so it's probably something I'll just do on my own. But what she wants to read you is the letter that she wrote for court. Now, keep in mind, actually, let me take a back step here. I got a hearing on January 22nd, or 20th. Was it 20th or 22nd? I think it was the 20th. It was the 22nd, I'm pretty sure. Went in front of a judge for a motions hearing. It was Judge Dwyer, honorable judge. He was able to hear the sides of my side from my defense and Lenore's side, and the prosecutor spoke as well. And of course, his only argument was, oh, well, he's got a skull fracture. It's like, okay. She told the judge at that time how good I was and that it was just an accident. And the judge even agreed. He's like, well, I can see how this could be an accident. And my bond was set at $150,000 in the beginning. And I had 5 charges. I had first and second degree child abuse, first and second degree assault, and reckless endangerment. All ridiculous charges I should never had in the first place. He said audibly to the courtroom, he's like, well, I can see how this could be an accident. I can lower your bond. And he took my bond down from $150,000 down to $10,000. So while I was in there, my Eighth Amendment had been completely violated because it was a bond that was totally unreasonable, especially for the circumstances where the only witness and the mother of the child is telling them that I don't need to be in there. And she tried countless times. She wrote the charging officer while I was locked up, the state's attorney. She contacted all of them, and none of them would listen to her, even though she's supposed to be representing the alleged victim, which we know that is not the case. There is no victim here. It was a simple accident. Well, I finally got out a week later. It was like January 30th, and I was under pretrial supervision. I still couldn't see my soon-to-be stepson. It was hard. So I didn't actually technically see him until, well, I actually didn't have any contact at all. I wasn't allowed to. I didn't get to see him at all until June 11th, that day after court. So it was like 9 months later I lost out of time being with him. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. And that's time I'll never get back. And it's really unfair because I missed him getting all his teeth in, walking, talking. He's just like an amazing person now at 21 months. She'll be able to tell you a little bit more.
2.
Well, he's not 2 yet.
22 months.
Well, actually 22 months now. 22 months now. But it was just absolutely ridiculous. And while I was under pretrial status, like I said, I couldn't see him. And my original trial was supposed to be in February. And the state actually asked for a continuance because of lack of evidence. I don't know why they didn't just drop it, especially when you've got her and her dad wrote in also, and not listening to anybody, not using any common sense whatsoever. So my next trial was supposed to be in May, and again, postponed again by the prosecutor. So ended up on June 11th having a hearing date. I was stuck in a tough position. You see, we could have won by far at trial if we would have went to trial. The only problem is with the coercion that she experienced at the department into a falsified statement. I was left in a tough spot. It's like, I can have her testify, she can tell the truth, but the problem arises is now she's facing criminal charges of her own. And they would have slammed her for anything and everything after all the money that they've wasted on me and the personal agenda that they placed against me. So, with the powers be behind the scenes as well. So, I had to make a tough decision. And it was a same day decision. I had to make it because my lawyer was on a 2-week vacation after that and didn't come back till literally like the day before my court hearing. I had to decide, do I go to trial and then her face criminal charges and then go away? I didn't want him to lose her mother. He's already lost his biological father. His biological father is incarcerated for 15 years for a crime that he did that was against the family. So the boy has no father. I've been his father. I am his father. He calls me daddy. Even after all the months of not seeing me, as soon as he saw me, he knew who I was and was all over me and calling me daddy left and right, saying his daddy and mommy. So it aggravates me and frustrates me, so I had to make a decision. I ended up taking a plea bargain. I decided to do an Alford plea, which is not an admission of guilt, meaning I don't agree with it. And I took a plea bargain to the misdemeanor of second degree. So it ended up giving me a time served credit, and I didn't have to risk her having to take a whole bunch of charges and facing jail time, which I know for a fact she would have because of how malicious that they can be. So I'm going to go ahead and let her read the letter that she wanted to read in court. Keep in mind, she tried to say some of these things. but she was cut off as soon as she started talking about her experiences. Of course, again, the prosecutor made no attempts to listen to her. In fact, his comment was, "I don't understand how the family basically could think David's the greatest guy in the world." Well, maybe it's not that I'm the greatest guy in the world, but maybe it's because you people have things wrong. So go ahead and read your letter that you wanted to read to the court. Go ahead.
Okay. David Malekar has been taking care of my son and myself since the beginning when we first met in April 2012. He would pay for my son's food, clothing, and any necessities that he needed. David would take care of my son on a regular basis, and when he would watch him alone when I was at work. He would play with him, and you could tell that he really loved him and does love him. David is the father to my son that he needs since his birth father is gone and won't be back for many years due to incarceration. I always trusted David around my son and never felt any wrong feelings about him taking care of him. I was there when we were all playing with him the night the accident happened where David fell with my son. I saw it happen with my own two eyes. David was trying to cheer him up since he was being fussy. This was his teething period and it was very grumpy. David was spinning my son around and had control, but after a little bit, he lost his balance and fell. My son hit his head when David fell, but you could tell David didn't intend it and actually was trying not to fall on top of him. It all happened so fast and everyone was surprised. After I had put him down for a nap and came back to feed him about an hour later, that's when I noticed a bump on his head. He wasn't crying, he wasn't in a panic. We asked my dad for any advice and took him over to see my dad. And we all agreed we should take him to the hospital to have him looked at to make sure nothing was wrong. Raziel has a history of falling and bumping his head as he was learning to walk during this time and was very clumsy. He would stand up and move around walking while holding on to things when the doctor said he was when the doctor said he was going to DC, I was in panic or worried because I did not know what to do after getting down there. And they checked him out. I didn't know what to do. After getting down there and they checked him out, they said he would be fine, that it would heal on its own. From that point on, I became a victim of harassment and verbal abuse by investigators. I tried to explain to them what happened, but nobody wanted to hear it. They kept insisting I was a liar and verbally insulting me, putting me down, and making me feel uncomfortable. The one officer... Should I say his name?
Which one?
The one I was talking to.
Go ahead.
Detective Barnes had cussed at me while I was in DC. I didn't understand what was going on and I didn't know what my rights were. Days later they came to the house and talked to David. Nothing came about it. There was nothing that did happen. It was just an accident, but they weren't happy with that. Officer Barnes kept visiting my home, and she would not stop coming to see me if I didn't go in and talk at the sheriff's department. For more than 4 months, CPS had restricted my contact with my own son, that I couldn't be around him unless directly watched by my parents. It was a complete total inconvenience for all of us and put a huge strain on the family. CPS threatened to take away my child if I did not go down to the station and make a statement. I only went down there to protect my son, as I would not allow him to be taken away from me. While I was there for nearly 2 hours, I was called a liar, completely uncomfortable, and had my intelligence and livelihood disgraced. I tried telling them the truth, but he always said I was lying, even said that he could tell my son was unplanned. I was completely offended and could not believe the way I was being treated. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I had no idea what my rights were. At the time, I was very confused, didn't have hardly any sleep for days, and just worried sick about keeping my son. I didn't have to worry about his health because the doctors already assured me that he would be fine and he would heal completely on his own. Hospital didn't even do much with him except take x-rays and give him Pedialyte through a IV. The officer I spoke to said that my son was going to have permanent damage and that I am lucky he's alive, which I was never told at all. The way he was talking to me was leading me to saying things that he wanted to hear, not what was true. I was coerced into saying certain things because of how I was being led to certain answers and do not stand by such statements. When you're lied to by an officer about your son's health and well-being completely opposed to what the doctor said that he would be fine, I found myself trapped in a corner saying what he wanted me to say. David would never hurt my son. I would never allow him to hurt my son. I would never be with David if he ever hurt my son. Or thought about hurting my son. Or thought about hurting my son.
Yeah, I never would happen.
My son is my world and I love him too, but my son is number one in my life. The way they treated all of us was totally uncalled for and shameful. My dad and I wrote the state's attorney and the charging officer explaining how David didn't do anything wrong, that it was an accident, that he didn't need to be in jail, and we wanted him out and the charges dropped. The state's attorney refused to answer or speak to me. Not even once. I don't understand how the state can process charges against David when we are the supposed victims. We don't want David to be charged with anything. We all want to be family, and my son needs his father. We are asking that David has no charges on him. We want this dismissed so we all can move on with our lives and be whole again. David and I are getting married soon. We have been engaged for over a year now. My son is and has been a very healthy and happy boy. The developmental people from
The developmental center?
what are they called?
It's on there, isn't it?
No.
The Washington County Developmental Center.
No,
Anyways, it's a developmental center in town that they said that he was actually doing very well. So go ahead and continue.
So they said that he is advanced beyond 2-year-old level and doing well. He knows his letters, all sorts of animals, his own body parts and names. And he can point out various things, tell you what they are. If you ask him to get you something, he will get it for you. He's only 21 months old and is an amazing child. I ask of you, please let this all go so we can be a happy family again and grow together. Thank you for listening to me again. Please let this be dismissed. Thank you.
So you can see Lenore is a very shy, bashful person. It's hard for her to speak even on camera. So you can only imagine how they took advantage of that at the sheriff's department and how they took advantage of her throughout the ordeal. So again, it was about 2 hours worth of badgering before the sheriff finally talked her into saying the things that he wanted her to say. For example, can you give us some examples of how that they walked you into what they wanted you to say?
First of all, it wasn't supposed to be a statement at all. It was only supposed to answer questions for the polygraph test. And, like, I started to say something, he'd be like, oh, don't lie now. Don't lie. Don't lie.
Speak up a little bit.
Oh.
But yeah, it's further on into it, it was going where he was saying things, and she would say back a response, and he'd say, "Well, no, I need you to say it like this." I don't know how much I can talk about that, but I have seen the interview. The interview is available, and it was absolutely disgraceful. It was a horrible macho showing of authority and just complete disregard for her feelings and for her just totally disregard for her in general. It was very in her face, sitting close to her when he was pressuring her in order to saying the things that he wanted her to say. And when she finally said something that was actually completely unrelated, they took it out of context, and they built an entire case around that, and which led to my arrest, which was like over almost a week or so later after the accident had happened. Now, the whole reason why I made this video in general is because on the day after it was either I think a few days after that I was arrested, I made A3, which is A2 of the second page of the local Herald Mail newspaper. They had my mugshot and the bond and the charges. The second day they had more information that was incorrect on A3, so I made the newspaper twice. Now since then, even after my release from bond, I thought I'd get a reprint. I never got a reprint. I haven't gotten a reprint since until I made a video a few days ago of me playing with him and uploaded it and had the linked in there the statement that she wanted to read and the information that had gone down. And this was a couple days after the hearing. Still no reprint. So I emailed the Herald Mail, the original author of the article, and asked for a reprint and a link to the video and her statement in there as well. The local news station also put something out a few days after I was arrested, or the day of, something of that nature. Again, more slander. I haven't had a reprint of the from the news station, but I have had one since, finally, from the newspaper, where it was by the original author of the original article, and they finally said something again, but again it was to make it look as terrible as possible. It reads as the following, and I'll link this as well in the video description below. It says, Hagerstown man gets suspended sentence for injuring baby boy. David Malekar was sentenced to 7 years in state prison, but all of it was suspended except for time served. A Hagerstown man accused of injuring a baby boy last fall has received a suspended sentence after entering an Alford plea to second-degree assault in the Washington County Circuit Court. David Malekar, they have my age wrong, and then they list my address, entered the plea on June 11th before Washington County Circuit Judge Dwyer, according to court records. Malekar was sentenced to 7 years in state prison, but all of it was suspended except for 113 days he had served after his arrest, the court record said. He was also placed on probation for 3 years, the court record said. While he is on probation, Malekar cannot have unsupervised contact with the child, Assistant State's Attorney Brett Wilson said this week. The baby boy recovered from his injuries, Wilson said. An Alford plea is not an admission of guilt, but an acknowledgement that the prosecution has enough evidence to get a conviction. In exchange for Malekar's plea, all of the charges were dismissed, including first-degree child abuse resulting in severe physical injury, the record said. The Washington County Sheriff's Office had investigated an October 3rd, 2012 incident in which a 13-month-old boy sustained a fractured skull, according to charging documents. The child's mother gave police differing accounts of how her son was injured, but said she did not see the child get hurt, the documents said. Malekar told police he was spinning the boy when he lost his footing, and the child hit his head on a computer tower, the documents said. Well, my statement stayed true throughout the entire ordeal.
The only way that they got different things out of me because they wouldn't take.
Yeah, so the result of their pressure ended up in a false statement on her behalf. So
it's their fault.
I'm making this video basically to address the articles and the whole situation in general, to set the record straight. For those of you watching, most of you know me already, and you're watching this just because you want to see what I had to say. It's basically everything I've been saying so far. All my updates on this whole procedure are on my Facebook page, and they are set to public. You can see everything from on there. It's just, it boggles my mind at like how far they've gone in general as a collective to try to destroy and annihilate my character, a complete destruction of my personal character to the world, because all these things are linked online. Well, again, I'll have all this information linked in the description below. I hope that this answers questions for a lot of you. I hope that this clears a lot of things up, and that whoever clicks on this link, if you're a complete stranger, I thank you for your time, for watching this video, and for understanding and hearing the voice of the people that were affected. As you can see from the article, they didn't even ask my lawyer for a statement at all. They only talked to the state's attorney. They didn't ask her for a statement. They didn't even respond to the things that I had addressed when I emailed them. Just further proof to show the agenda of the local people here that we have here. And again, I want to thank the judge for his decisions and how he affected the case with how he reduced my bond, and ultimately how the court hearing went. His words in the court hearing, this is paraphrasing, of course, I can't remember exactly, but he was even saying that, if you would have went to trial, all it would have took is just one person to not be sure, and you would have been fully acquitted. And he said, then again, at the same time, they may have not, and you would have been facing a lot of time, so I understand where you're coming from. And I agree with that, and ultimately that wasn't my decision why I took the plea. I took the plea because I wanted to make sure and be sure that she wouldn't be in any type of trouble, because I didn't want to see a child lose their mother for years on end. I just don't have the heart to see somebody end up going to jail, even if the only reason why I was arrested in the first place was because of a fabricated statement that she had made. I still just don't have it in me to see somebody go to jail and be taken away from their child, and for the child, more importantly, to be taken away from their mother. So it would have been tough if I would have had to end up, raising him with his grandparents for years on end. When he's older, I know he'll be able to see this, and he'll be able to say, well, thank you for looking out for my mom and looking out for me, because that's ultimately what this is all about. I wanted to help preserve the family. I didn't want to destroy the family like they have tried and attempted to do, and almost successfully did, but through the help of God and through our strength that we had through him, we were able to persevere. There was a lot of long nights. It's been a long battle. It's been very tiring, but we're still here, and God protects us, and if anything ever were to happen to us again, I know that people will know, because this is out there, that the truth is out there, and that they will be able to see through the lies if anything else were to come about. Again, thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a long video, but it's addressing an ordeal that's gone for 9 months strong with us. It boggles my mind as to how far it's gone. And I'll be addressing other forms of corruption on further videos. For example, to give you a taste, my late wife that I was married to for 4.5 years, who ended up passing away, she had schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia, and she ended up committing suicide, unfortunately, in March of 2011. But I will tell and describe the ordeal with how that went and how it linked into this with powers behind the scenes that I can't physically prove on paper, but with testimony I can make you think about things. So, I'm David Malekar. This is Lenore. We thank you for your time. God bless.